So, Rob Austin, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. So, we usually start out just by getting a little background about folks and hearing a little bit about their experience in the industry. So, how'd you get started and how'd you get to where you are now?
Well, it's a long and winding road, I'll say that. I spent my first years out of college working at a film studio, an actual film studio. This was 30 years ago now, so we actually used film cameras, and
Hmm.
I got very lucky. I met somebody who was a very well-to-do, high-end tabletop director. Tabletop means we shot food and products, not people. So
Got it.
we shot things like Subway sandwiches. We shot things like Arby's. We shot things like beer. We shot things like gasoline. I mean, it didn't matter. And then they would cut in the people drinking or using the products, right? And that
Hmm.
happened somewhere completely different because back in the day, food photography was a real specialty, okay? And the guy I was working with was very good at high-speed photography, which at the time was pretty novel. So he used these cameras called photosonic cameras. They shot 1,000 frames a second. They were actually used by the military to watch, say, a missile explode. Like that's the speed of this camera. So he pioneered the ability to use that inside a film studio for food, which at the time was pretty crazy. So I worked there for a while, and then I moved up to what's called motion control camera, which is a robotic camera.
Hmm.
You've seen it every day. If you've watched television in the last week, you've seen it 100 times. It's when the camera is like crawling tightly over the front of the sandwich and showing you the bacon and the lettuce and the meat, and then it comes out to like the value meal or whatever.
Right.
That's done by a robotic camera most times. So that was 25 years of my life. But I was convinced when HD became prevalent, and I was like, "Ooh, our job is going to be even more important because you could sort of fudge it with film. Film was a little fuzzy, We were looking at
Hmm.
4:3 televisions and analog, and we just sort of said, well, that's more beautiful than something else, right? But then when HD came along, I was like, well, the flaws are going to be so obvious now that we're going to absolutely be completely imperative to this whole ecosystem. And the exact opposite happened. Okay. Everybody with an iPhone had an HD camera, and suddenly they were like, well, I could do that. I'll just take a picture
Right.
with this. And so then the still guys started doing some video with their cameras, and we like basically got marginalized out of existence. Like we went, like, let's say there were
Whoa.
100 people doing this, and it went down to like five. I mean, it was really, really bad for the industry. Um, and so I kind of had to figure out something else to do. That became websites. I started doing websites because there was a weird overlap between motion control camera, which was a robot and very binary, and like it was a rigid set of rules that could be
Hmm.
used to do something very fluid and creative. And that's basically what HTML and WordPress is, right?
Right.
It's a bunch of rules that are absolutely rigid, but just because you have those rules, you can make whatever you want out of
Hmm.
that. And I found that very appealing. So I
Got it.
started doing that, and I started going to a bar in Wrigleyville
Oh yeah,
because
we
they were
should
showing
say
the world.
you're in Chicago.
I am in Chicago,
Just
that's right.
we should say that.
I'm on the northwest side of Chicago, area called Irving Park.
Hmm.
Um, I got in with this bar, and they started asking me to do things for their website and their social media, right?
Hmm.
Um, because they basically they didn't have one, and they knew that
Right.
I knew more than they did. So they asked me to start taking control of their social medias and doing some photography. And since I was at the bar a lot, it was easy for me to document what was happening.
Right.
Um,
And what year
and
about
then
was
that just
when
this
was
was
this?
probably 2017-ish.
Okay.
So,
Got it.
um, little trial by fire. I mean, I knew how to connect, say, one of those websites that puts all your social medias into one account so you can post one thing to like four places at the same time.
Right.
Saved a lot of time. And then I just started just doing it, It was sort of like, well, I'm here. I'm here when things happen. I know what the events are that are coming up. And so it was very easy to just basically tell social media what I already knew. That's basically what
Hmm.
it came down to, you know.
Right.
Um, and so that's where it came from. And now I've worked for other bars and other restaurants doing other things like that. And finally, I'm here at Leader Bar, sort of in control of the website, the marketing, and the socials because in it, they really all overlap, you know.
Right.
They really are one.
No doubt.
If there was a Venn diagram, it would just be a circle stacked on top of
Yeah.
itself, you know.
3 level circle
So,
for sure.
right.
A layer
So
cake.
that's
Yeah.
a layer cake, right. And the food photography background helps when, you know, your bar is trying to show everybody that A, the space is beautiful and they have a above average menu that you wouldn't expect, you know.
Right.
So prior to me being here, that was kind of that was hidden basically. Nobody really knew about it. So
Yeah,
I
it's one of
wanted
those
everybody to see.
you were saying like when you left your previous career or were marginalized out of your previous career, the fact that everybody had an HD camera on their iPhone contributed to that.
Right.
But the fact that everybody has a camera on their iPhone now contributes to you having this job because everybody
That's true.
thinks that they can do it and they can't.
Exactly. Right, right. This is similar to when my wife, who grew up doing sort of publishing, you know, like she did
Okay.
marketing and publishing, and then suddenly desktop publishing became a thing, and everybody would say, "Well, great, now I can just do that myself. I don't
Right.
need to hire a designer." Well, I can't tell you how many times they would put out an event flyer or something and not have the date and time on it. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like just because you can do this doesn't
Yeah.
mean you should do this.
Exactly.
So
There was I don't know if you heard about the Supreme Court election that was up here in Wisconsin,
I did, yeah.
early April. Um, but some of these signs that people had made that were like professionally made, it didn't say the date. It did,
Right,
it didn't say this is an
exactly.
April
Right.
election. Nobody knows that they're going to have to vote. You got to tell people when to vote.
Right.
But
Right.
you got
You
to,
and you can't tell people enough and you can't tell them in enough places. That's absolutely the case. So,
yeah. Okay, so we're kind of getting into like the high level topic here of um, just meta marketing for a bar or a restaurant. So you said that like we talked about the Venn diagram layer cake thing where
mhm.
website, social media, like it all is intertwined and overlapping to a significant degree. But how do you think about marketing for Leader Bar? This is one of the in the survey that we ran a few weeks ago. This is like people wanted to hear most about marketing. So let's start at the top. Like, how do you think about marketing for you guys?
This is basically what I think about marketing is you need to demonstrate to everyone what it is you want them to do when they come to your bar. You have
Uh-huh.
to show them what happens here. You have to show them the things they might want to eat or drink. And you can't be sure about how they're going to get that information. You just have to absolutely bombard them. All right. Some people go to the website. Some people go to Facebook. Some people use Twitter exclusively. Some people will just go to the Google business listing, right? You don't know.
Hmm.
So in all of those places, you have to demonstrate to potential people what this place is like before they get here, you know?
Hmm.
Like, I get frustrated personally when I go to a Google business listing and I look at the photos and they're like macro close on a hamburger. And I'm like, what's the bar look like? You know, like, what does it
Right.
look like when I walk in? Is it a dive? Is it upscale? Do I need to
Yeah.
dress a certain way? Do I need to
Right.
dress down a certain way? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So, we're on a busy corner here in Chicago in Irving Park, and yet some people have walked in and said, I didn't know this place was here, you know? So you just have to constantly project what the bar is about, what it looks like, what the food is like, what the people who come here are like, what the
Hmm.
drinks are like, what the outdoor space is like, you know, what it looks like with the windows open, what it looks like with the fireplace on. Just
In
you
winter,
have to show
summer,
them. Right.
spring.
Yeah. Yeah. So
So who, so them, who is them Is it anyone? Are you guys like, do you, so we have for beer menus who does this newsletter, like we have spent some time cultivating like this ideal customer persona. Like, and because we know who
Mm,
that person is, we like everything that we do is meant for a like a neighborhood bar or restaurant that has a beer or drink selection that changes at least twice a month, and is like craft focused. So like we know that, and everything that we
sure,
do, we
sure,
try
sure.
to optimize for that. Do you guys have something like that when you're doing all this
Mm,
stuff?
honestly, no, we don't. I mean, if I can be blunt, my favorite customer is somebody with a wallet who wants to spend some money, you know? I mean,
Yeah,
my job is to try to get people in the door, and the staff's job is to try to keep them here and make them want to come back.
right.
Um, we don't necessarily, I mean, we've got a wide net, basically. We have
Hmm.
kids eat free earlier in weekday evenings. There are a lot of
Cool.
families around here. It's a very residential neighborhood.
Yep.
So we're basically trying to let anybody who lives within a mile or two that this is a viable place and an attractive place. There's going to be something for everyone. We got TVs everywhere you look. We've got 24 direct TV boxes. There's very little chance you won't be able to watch what you want to watch when you're here. We have live music occasionally. Like I said,
Hmm.
kids eat free. We've got an extensive draft beer selection,
Yep.
16
I can see
handles.
it back there.
Right, and that's just one of the towers. The other tower is all completely different flavors.
Nice.
Um, but basically, we just want to be a nice neighborhood, slightly above average, what you would expect. This neighborhood was bereft of nice places to go. So I think people, when they lived in this neighborhood, expected there not to be such a thing.
Hmm.
And I want everyone to know it's here. It's right down the street from you. You
Right.
don't have to go to one of the more expensive neighborhoods in Chicago to have a really upscale, nice, good meal, you know? So,
So that when you're listing like the different values that you can bring or the different things that you can offer to these different people, how do you prioritize those things? How do you make it clear? Like you can imagine looking at tiles of an Instagram page and you
mhm,
can kind of see like what each one is showing. Are
right.
you doing specific things on social media or on the website or whatever to try to capture a bunch of those at one time and be like, hey, look at this, you can do this, this, this? Or are you kind of focusing on one of those things at a time?
Um, if it were a chart, the majority of posts are about the food that we sell. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the food is absolutely way above average. Okay, it's
Okay.
it's not only great tasting, it's really well presented.
Got
Okay,
it.
and you would not expect that from your neighborhood bar, I don't think. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so whenever possible, I try to take a nice, beautiful picture of the food so that just immediately you see it and you go, I'm kind of salivating a little bit. You know, that looks really good.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know they had that.
Right.
When I started working for these guys in social media, I was surprised that their main thrust was pizzas. I I just assumed a sports bar was going to be mostly um,
Burgers,
hamburgers, burgers and sandwiches and
wings,
stuff
and
like
stuff.
that.
Yeah.
It's way above that. And the
Mm-hmm.
pizza is damn good in a city where we've got a lot of pizzas, okay? We're not short on pizza places at all. Um,
Yeah.
this pizza is fantastic. Cornmeal crust, tavern style, nice and
Nice.
thin and crispy. It's absolutely my favorite type. And it's
Hmm.
right here. It's right down the street from me. I don't think most people realize that, because pizza's not in the name of the bar. So
Right.
whenever possible, I try to promote that and let people know it's here as a choice. It's always good finger food and to share with the people you bring to the bar. So
Yeah.
most of it is food.
Okay.
Uh, the rest of it is going to be events that we have. Like
Uh-huh.
they show all the UFC fights. We did a pay-per-view for a boxing match recently. We have a lot of live music events, generally every other weekend. Trivia on Mondays when there's not, Monday Night Football to fill in some, just evening time.
Right.
So it's about what you can do when you're here, what you can enjoy to eat or drink while you're here. And the rest is going to be like cocktails and beers, like we
Okay.
have pitchers, we have a wide selection. Um, th that's basically it's food, events, and then there's a
Drinks.
lot of bars around here with a lot of drinks. So ours are, we have a wide variety. I want people to know that there's a big choice here. But yeah, you're going to have your Miller Lite drinkers and your Modelo's, and we have that too.
Yeah.
So
I was talking to somebody recently who was just like, what I'm trying to do, they were just a bar, they didn't have food. What I'm trying to do is make sure that everybody knows that everybody can come in here and get what they need. Like the
yes,
person making the decision for the group could be big, could be small, whatever, knows they can bring somebody there because the rosé person can get their rosé, because
right.
the cab person can get their thing, the craft beer, the Yingling, the like everybody's covered. We're good here.
Yes, yes. That's a better way to say what I was saying. But yes, and basically, and now we've redone the outdoor patio space. A lot of people
Mm,
come here, they don't realize we have one. So I've taken some pictures recently of it sort of, you know, patio 2.0.
mm,
Um, and it's dog friendly because it's outside. Here in Chicago, if you don't have food in the bar, you're generally able to have a dog in the bar. And
right.
some bars lean into that to great success. We don't have that inside, but outside there's no kitchen, so you can
Hmm.
bring your dogs out there. At some point I want to, I'm going to stage some people with some dogs outside to show them this is a thing you can do. Walk your dog down here.
Right.
Have a seat outside in our beautiful space. Grab a
Hmm.
beer. Enjoy the weather. So yeah, there literally is something for everyone here. I mean, yeah, we don't have like a high-end wine selection, okay, but we do have
Right.
half-price wine bottles, so
Yeah. You're gonna be
there's
okay.
something for everybody.
Wine
Yes,
drinkers.
exactly.